Hi, welcome to Developer Diary number 2. I'm Sam Hill's community manager. I'm joined by Joel, our software engineer, and James, our managing director. We're going to take you through what we've been doing this week in Deceit. So the biggest thing we've been doing is gathering community feedback. We've been speaking to a bunch of players, including top streamers from Dead by Daylight, people on the forums, people on Discord, people on our forums, Facebook, Twitter, pretty much you name it, we've been speaking to people in the community, and that feedback has been feeding into a whole bunch of stuff we've been doing this week, including the elephant in the room, which is regional-based matchmaking, which we finally started to roll out, yesterday?
No, it was a couple of days ago.
It was a couple of days ago.
We've got loads of matchmaking things we're doing, of course, and I think we're doing some aspects of matchmaking already really well. Obviously, people get into games very quickly. We've also got a very robust system. It was rolled out quite quickly to start with, but we've put in a lot of effort to making sure it's working and monitored very well. So we've had seamless matchmaking, for basically the majority of this week. But we haven't added all the features we want yet. So we obviously want more level-based matchmaking. So we've put together a way of doing that, and that's being implemented over the next few days. So we should have really good level-based matchmaking without compromising on queue times. More regional-based stuff. So we're rolling out more and better localization to other countries, as we've seen lots of interest from Asian countries, and we also want to do more stuff with European translations. So we're going to make sure all that fits together into a good matchmaking system, and that's basically all going to come within the next week. For the most part, most of that will come in the next week. So we've already done obviously a good amount of stuff. Generally speaking, you can get into games quickly. You've got the sort of western region, the eastern region, and it's sort of that's how it's split right now.
Yeah, so behind the scenes, what we rolled out the other day, which some people might not have realized, we put our first servers up in Asia. This is to begin to split down the matchmaking queue. So whilst you might still have got a lot of Chinese games in the meantime, if you were playing from an English-speaking country, or you might have still had a bunch of English-speaking players in your games if you're playing in China, that is going to get better as things progress. We also rolled out, like you said, a bunch of localization changes, so we got a lot better rolling out fonts to display Chinese names, so you don't just call your teammates box, 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 because that sucks. We rolled out some stuff to do with the queue. Basically, the way the queue works at the moment is it looks for people near you for a set amount of time, and once it's not satisfied that you can find people around you, it expands around that until eventually you look into a global queue so that you still get put in a game. I spoke to Morph, was quite prominent on this. The main feedback I got on the queues was people still want to get games, even if not necessarily every game is perfect. So for the moment, we have that kind of system. We're going to be rolling out a more level-based system so people in higher MMR will experience games with more people in higher MMR. Again, it will expand out so you still get games. We don't want anyone to be waiting a very long time for a game, but at the same time we want to increase kind of the playability of those games and make those games better for everyone in them. So yeah, that kind of covers what we've been doing as far as matchmaking goes this week. Why don't you take me through some of the other stuff we did with community feedback, the changes to lethal injection that you've been kind of championing that one, right?
There's been a lot of discussion around the lethal injection just in general. I had asked the Discord actually, I think it was yesterday, about their thoughts on potentially removing it. Since then we've thought about it a bit more, and there are definitely a lot of people that were going to miss the aspect that it brought to the game. Something that, whilst it would have been removed in the meantime, we would have liked to have brought back through different items and things like that in the future. But obviously, because right now we don't have that replacement there, we've gone with kind of an intermediate method of slightly addressing some of the issues that were being highlighted more in the higher level gameplay of Deceit, where people were kind of trolling with the lethal injection. So as of this patch, it will be the case that when you get lethal injection, you can be antidoted, much like the when you get killed by a terror. This doesn't necessarily solve all the issues, so it's something we want to continue looking into over the next few weeks, but as of now, it's a step towards at least a solution that we're definitely working on, and hopefully within the week or two we'll have a much more robust solution for it.
Yeah, so basically we've slightly adjusted it so there's counterplay to it, because it was more the only issue was okay, maybe it's fine, in a lot of cases it's quite an interesting item, but it's just really annoying just to get trolled by, so it's okay, bye, no counterplay. So now at least you have the chance to get antidoted. Obviously we have more items coming, and that will also round out the different strategies in the game and make more kinds of things possible. But right now it's just a slight adjustment to just sort of deal with that. Specifically if you're playing with a lot of high level players and they're all like just competing for rank, they're not playing the game properly because they'll just eliminate you because why not? It's that sort of thing.
There are also some other balancing changes that we've done that will potentially help with the issue of people almost randomly using the lethal injection. So previously I think you received as an innocent 250 experience for just using the lethal injection. It's now down to 100. And also we've readjusted the way that XP is distributed for how you escape. So I think previously again it was 250 XP for escaping, or maybe 200 XP for escaping on your own. It's now 100 XP when you escape, plus 100 XP for every innocent that has escaped or is still alive at the moment at which you escape. So it's more beneficial to you to escape with other innocents.
Yeah, so escaping with more people now encouraged by the XP system.
Yeah.
So that's just an adjustment which I think we
so help your teammates stop murdering them, basically. Or continue to murder them, but you have a loss for that, so why would you do that? I don't know. We're going to continue to look into that as things progress. We want to tweak things rather than remove them, is the kind of feeling at the moment. We want to see how that change works out rather than just removing it and replacing it with not too much at the moment. So
I
more
know people like it as
iterations
well,
on
and
that.
there are benefits to it, so we're not going to we won't just remove what it does in the game. We just want to address the trolley aspects of it, I guess. And there's actually more we can do with the item as well, potentially. Just being able to sort of see when someone has it, or there are various kinds of ways we can adjust it that make it interesting for different reasons. But we have to look at all of that in combination with the other items we want to be adding in the coming weeks. So we really can only put that all together. We might talk about it more next week, if not the week after. And obviously this week we focused a lot on bug fixes, and that's the same next week, so we're sort of halfway through, making sure that any sort of crashes and bugs we have, like all the ones we've collected, are all addressed. So this week we've nailed a lot of the ones around anything to do with the more game-specific stuff. And next week we're going to finish addressing the engine. Obviously we're using a brand new engine from Crytek, and it's a very, very interesting and powerful engine which will let us do a lot of cool things that other games haven't even done really that much yet in terms of graphics and various other things. But there are a couple really annoying issues, and they do cause crashes. So we're going to actually fly to Frankfurt next week, a couple of our engineers, and just nail anything that's causing crashes basically. So next week is another sort of really strong bug fix week to make sure we get where we want to be with that stuff. So that's sort of the downside of trying out something so new, unfortunately. Obviously after we've done this stuff and after we've dealt with the crashes over the next couple of weeks, we're confident that we will then have everything well tested from then on out, make sure that we don't introduce any more. So it's like a couple more weeks of bug fix focus, and then we should be in a really good place.
So we found that a lot of our crashes were actually related to something engine related. We've been speaking, working very closely with Crytek. We don't want to go too much detail on that, but we're going to be going to Frankfurt and working with them on their kind of home turf to make sure that kind of stuff gets ironed out very, very quickly. So that's one of the biggest things that we wanted to address. We're addressing it. People will be a lot happier, I guess, once their game stops crashing, I hope. The other stuff we've been looking at adding that's kind of continuing is better animations across the board. I don't know if anyone's kind of looked and seen the awkward DJ mixing when you backpedal. That should be gone relatively soon, next week.
There's loads of animation stuff we're doing. And we can do a lot with animation. That's what we really want to do. It can look really awesome, but as I say, we focus on other aspects first, the gameplay and making the game fun and releasing it so everyone can play it. Visual stuff like that, the whole reason we have structured the team and the engine the way we have is to get awesome visuals. You can see already we've got some great stuff in there, but the consistency isn't done. We're not done. So animation is a whole area where we can do a lot of cool stuff. We have some cool animations in there, but there's so much more we can do with that. Everything from the execution itself to escaping really cool in a cool way, and we've got just locomotion. Obviously, as you move, making that your feet grounded better on the ground. How you hold your. There's so much to that we're going to do to a really high standard. It just wasn't necessary for us to do that before we launched the game, right? You can still play with the occasional animation looking a bit weird, but as a studio we really want to, we've just started. We're going to do some awesome stuff related to animation quality. It's our focus going forward. So that's just going to roll out over time, right? Over the coming weeks, it will just sort of get better and better.
Okay, so other people have been asking about stuff, like when do we get more stuff in general. There wasn't really a specific stuff request. Guys, make a better request than just stuff. What is stuff? But we did come up with some stuff of our own, some of which is going to be rolling out today. There will be some St. Patrick's Day clothing. So for anyone with a Guinness at home or any of that kind of stuff, or wearing green today, you can carry that over in game and wear a green suit, and there's some other cool stuff coming up. I think I've got that you look at on this button right here. So yeah, you can look at new St. Patrick's Day items, which, yeah, I don't know, I think they look awesome.
Yeah, so some cosmetics you can get. We've got the new way of unlocking cosmetics, like the reward crate replacement stuff. We talked about it last week. That's obviously coming.
That's coming soon, but this is going to be a 1 week limited crate reward for now for St. Patrick's Day. You got 1 week to get it, get your grind on. I don't know, see if you can complete the set basically.
And how does that relate to where's our picture of our cups?
Cups. Let's bring up the cups. Yeah.
Right,
So
okay.
yeah, the Shady Dealer continues to be developed in the shade of the background. He's going to be there. He's going to be dealing out items for people who give him the correct coins and so on. That's going to be replaced in crates, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Made a lot of progress on that.
Yes.
Not too much to show beyond the render this week, but that's going to be a really cool crate replacement.
We should be able to show that next week. So that's coming in the near future. Good, well-rounded cosmetic reward system with the coins. So that sort of adds another element to progressing within the game, being able to get cool gear. Obviously, we're looking towards the end of Season 1 on April 1st, so there's going to be a lot of cool stuff around that. But again, we are focusing on all the core game stuff now. All that stuff will sort of come in just on time for like the end of April. So I think that stuff obviously will add a lot to the game or the meta game, and that's sort of going to come in like probably some next week, some the week after. Again, it's like a gradual thing, but we're going to get a lot in for April, basically. So
yeah, so to keep things fresh in time for April, there will be some upcoming items in the game, some upcoming cosmetics for people, and that's going to just kind of change that entire dynamic a little bit in time for the Shady Dealer to have a really impactful sort of experience. You'll be saving up coins like you are at the moment, and you can kind of blaze through those pretty quickly and see what you get when the release for that comes out, and hopefully you'll get something cool. So that kind of covers that. There is one more awesome piece of content that I get to talk about in the vaguest of terms today, which is based very heavily on community feedback. We will actually be having a new map. We don't want to talk too much about what it is. We don't want to talk too much about when it is yet, because that takes a lot of time. But the new map is, it's going to be a lot more like the Asylum in some ways. We spoke to a lot of people, gained a lot of feedback, and found that people liked the kind of constrictive, claustrophobic, multi-angled feel of the Asylum. A lot of the stuff in the forest feels a little bit too open, so we're going to look to maybe tweak that a little bit. But this next map is going to be a lot more naturally unforgiving with the way it splits people up a little bit, with the way it forces you to kind of progress around and look around, and maybe you duck down an alley, a corner or an alleyway or a corridor or whatever it is, and you can't immediately see your teammates. So whilst you feel like, oh, they're just there and I'm perfectly safe, at the same time it's not going to necessarily mean you are. There's some changes to the forest that are related to that, actually, which I nearly completely forgot.
But also that map's like a hybrid. It's going to have indoor and outdoor. So we'll have like sort of a mixture of both. So there'll be some open space as you transition between the zones. So it should have a really good sort of balance of what we think is good about both maps. But then we'll also look at the current maps, and there's more we're doing with them. And of course we have the whole traps and vents mechanic sets that we're looking at in the next few weeks. So that should add kind of like zone control with traps, and also mobility for infected, sort of teleporting around the map to some extent through like vents to jump on people. And also we're looking at the forest map like new routes, almost like underground to the next section. So there are more angles through which you can progress, which I think is going to be important for that.
Yeah, so the new ways around the forest map are to partially tackle the issue of innocents grouping up, and then it's almost kind of boring gameplay because it's somewhat safe all the time when you're grouped up. So that's going to add at least more diversity of the ways you get into the new zones, but we're also looking at adding new items in ways to help disperse groups. So it's not so much, oh, we're all just going to group up and it'll be fine, there's no way they can get to us, we're just going to use our cameras, etc., etc. So some ideas we thought about, initial ones have been at least grenades, like flash or like smoke grenades. Maybe the smoke grenades somewhat limit the cameras while you're in there, just add some confusion, and obviously you don't know where someone's coming if you manage to chuck a smoke grenade into the group. But just those types of ideas to try and keep the game, make it so you're on your toes all the time.
Yeah, so we've got new items in grenades we're looking at, exactly how they work. Again, we'll talk about that shortly. We've not started on those yet, but they'll be one of the first things we're looking at. Traps. Along with that,
the main thing is how this all influences like map dynamics. So if we add, say, a tunnel for you to use in the middle of the map, rather than huddling up at the edge of the map where the door is, you would kind of have to defend multiple angles rather than necessarily shoving you back in a corner and knowing that danger can only come from one direction. So adding stuff like this and changing certain items, we've got some ideas between changing with the camera where it makes it a little bit more dynamic, makes it a little bit more maybe punishing if you use it wrong or rewarding if you use it correctly and so on. So we talked about some ideas around the camera. One of the great ideas I got from the community was actually using a viewfinder to kind of limit your, like how far you can see whilst you're using the camera. That's one idea.
We have a few ways of like rebalancing the camera mechanics to have counterplay, so that there are a few things we can do there, viewfinder related.
There was the capacitor idea as well, where it had like a charge
yeah.
time between shots regardless of your ammunition, so you couldn't just use it. You can't paparazzi people to death essentially. So there's a few ideas we're looking at for the existing items as well.
Apparently,
change the dynamic.
Apparently they can only hear us from the left. Again, this is like our second week where we're not in our actual live streaming setup. We fixed video this week. Apparently we've not like addressed audio to the extent we should have done. Hopefully everyone can still hear us fairly well.
This is what happens if someone steals your mic just before the stream. Oh well.
Yeah, so obviously we're installing a permanent setup and we're just sort of adding to our office right now. So I think we're in the middle of like, last week was a real experiment. This week I think we've set things up. You know, more stuff's been set up well, and then next week we'll have great audio, more stuff to show you. It's an ongoing process, but hopefully you can still hear
Going
us.
back to the camera quickly, there's also a slight issue with just the abundance of cameras. That's also something that will be addressed by adding more items. So obviously you're not going to have as many cameras available in the game if there are more items that can be collected from objectives, so you're not flooded with just cameras everywhere and there's like a lot more variety.
Yeah. Moving forward though, one of the biggest things for rebalancing items, balancing the spawn of items, balancing how they spawn, how you get them and so on, is going to be a lot of data collection. So once we're kind of happy with some of the crash fixes are sorted and so on in the game, we'll be collecting more information on exactly how you die, what feeds into that death, what items were involved, what were the circumstances, how many people were left, how was this item used, and so on and so forth, so that we can look at something and we can say like, oh, okay, when this happens, then item is used X% of the time, and so on. So we can talk about how the items actually work with some concrete figures behind it, so that when we start rebalancing them, we're not just kind of going with gut feeling or maybe louder community feedback from certain groups of people, but we're actually looking at some statistics as a whole, so we can see how the balancing actually works.
Yeah, so I'd say like
unbiasedly.
Next week is basically core tech is like just making sure we've gotten through all of those sort of the things we need to fix, and then I think a lot of that will basically transition into analytics, finding out exactly what's happening in all of our games, monitoring that. We've also got in-game reporting and things like that coming in at that time. So we're gonna, make sure we've also dealt with like the user-facing end of being able to monitor games, like this guy's found a way to cheat, or this guy's like being abusive. Like
we mentioned the fixes we've done for cheating.
No, we haven't.
We do have anti-cheat.
We should probably mention that.
We do have anti-cheat going into the game today as well. So that's also a big thing. Anti-cheat going in, both like our own stuff to monitor certain things and kill you if you try and do anything weird, but then also I think Valve anti-cheat is going in today.
We're looking at various different kind of anti-cheat solutions. We're implementing some of them today. We're tightening up a lot of the stuff to do with how the game works to punish the people that we've seen that have been speed hacking in the game right now.
Yeah, so that's important. we've dealt with that. But we're going to continue to monitor even more about the game, so it becomes an easy problem for us to deal with in future. And it will also cover that sort of like abusive kind of use of chat and things like that, to make sure we can always replay that stuff and make sure that it's all monitored appropriately. So again, like it feels like we're going to have pretty much a lot of what we're talking about. We're talking about stuff that we're doing over about the next month. A lot of it will be sort of front loaded, some of it will be later on. When it comes to new map, of course, we haven't got a fixed date for that yet, but we do want to show you a lot more actually about it in the coming. So either next week or the week after, we'll give you the proper lowdown on it.
Yeah, we're looking to give you some more details on that.
Yeah, but it's coming fairly soon. We have a big update for 1st of April. 1st of April. So we have a big update then. The map won't be in yet, but we'll definitely have a full lowdown by then for sure, and it'll be in the month after that effectively. So. That's the sort of timeline we're looking at, but we'll give you a sort of launch date, I imagine, on April the 1st. But we'll try to tell you as much as we can next week in our stream, the week after. We'll always show what we can, but we don't want to it's still something that we've only just started working on, so it's like...
Yeah, we don't want to say like a date, and then finally come to that date and it's actually, 2 weeks later than that, because that kind of sucks for everyone. I don't know. But yeah, we are working on that. Essentially, we're just improving everything in the game a little bit. It feels like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game that it will just improve every week. That's what's happening with the game.
Yeah, sure.
So,
it's just making more stuff essentially at the moment, which is.
Yeah, and I think that we haven't even addressed all the trait stuff, so we want to do a lot more trait stuff.
I think at least next week I want to focus a lot more on traits and get a new bunch out for people to use. Just going back to community feedback, I just realised there's another point we forgot to mention. There was. At least with new players, there are a fair few issues with the gas mechanic, and also even in higher level play where there's like, when you're going to a new zone, you can shoot people to down them in order to eliminate them. We've now changed the way that the gas works, so it's no longer 20 seconds of gas and 10 seconds of dying. We've changed it to 30 seconds of the oxygen bar going down, and once it hits 0, you die. But instead, it's been made so that if you get downed, that bar no longer decreases, and when you respawn again, you get back up on the same spot. So downing someone in the gas is more a slowing them down from getting to the new floor and like getting objectives or blood bags, etc., which should feel a lot better, at least in the game.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, it was just too strong to basically just like shoot someone in the gas and just get that was like the way to
it became too much of the metagame was just shooting people in gas, which was not really the intention of how that mechanic's supposed to work, so we're going to change that.
Especially through narrow doors.
As of today, that changes. So no more doing that. You guys are going to have to learn to play if you are relying on that one a little bit too much right now, so it's going to change. There'll be a patch going live about halfway through
It's about to go live now.
Probably about to go live roughly now-ish, so you'll be able to download that soon. We'll put patch notes up just after the stream so you can read through all of them properly, including a bunch of stuff that's kind of numbers, which we're not really going to cover too much in the stream.
Yeah, so full patch notes will be going out in a few minutes, so you can check our Steam page, I guess, Steam announcements or your Steam client.
Yeah, I'll be on our forums as well, on Talk Play Deceit.
Yeah, playdeceit.com.
Stuff like that.
And the update will go live in a few minutes, so you should have enough time to... If it's not downloading, just restart Steam and then it will come.
Yeah, we have one more awesome thing that happens after this stream actually. Drunken Brad from Oddity is going to be taking over from 8 GMT. He's going to be hosting a St. Patrick's Day focus stream. I think he's going to be getting really drunk while playing Deceit with a bunch of people, which is going to be pretty fun, I hope. So we're going to host him in about an hour or so when he's live. And yeah, they're going to be playing the new patch with trying to unlock some St. Patrick's Day stuff and experiencing the game. So, do you want to take some community questions?
Let's do questions. So now it's the Q&A part of our stream. You see I'm looking down all the time because I've got this laptop.
Bring it up.
We'll have to... let's try and make sure this is a feature of our actual setup next week.
Yeah, we'll have a table next week. It'll be brilliant. We can...
All of our camera equipment, actual mics,
actual own stuff, which would be good.
Okay, right, so where are we at? Twitch chat.
Is Sam Lisa?
Am I Lisa?
If you only allow the lethal injection to be used on stunned terrors, it would remove the troll with it, and it's very important, just like the shotgun and inspection kit in level 2 and 3. So, wait, lethal injection can't be used on terrors.
No, it would be a...
No, not when they're in terraform. No.
It's kind of almost... I don't know. So you want to... The purpose of downing a terror is to give yourself more time to get away, is the main reason we have that in the game. So it's almost going back on that if it's encouraging you to go closer, but
it is interesting. Yeah, it's a whole different item. The lethal doesn't have that purpose. We could look at that stuff around that, just being basically like, okay, now I've actually downed, we down the terror, and now I'm going to sort of like, end him. Quite a strong thing to do. I mean, obviously, it's quite easy to down a terror if you have a camera. But definitely cool. We want to add more interaction, obviously, getting chased, fighting back. There's loads more we can do with that, so it's definitely a suggestion that we'll incorporate.
I'm truly worried what's going to happen if this TV turns off.
Right, let's fix that. Right, let's try not mix anyone. Will the gas bug be fixed? Is that fixed? The gas bug?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was changed recently, and I'm pretty sure it fixes it.
I think
we
have
tested
fixed
it a fair bit, and we haven't seemed to have had the same issues that happen live at the moment, where you go through doors and it doesn't fully register. So hopefully that'll be fixed this patch.
Yeah, we've been addressing that and looking into ways to change the way that it registers which area you go into. So hopefully that should get a lot better this patch. If that continues to be an issue, let us know on the forums. I'll read your thread and cry a little bit as I feed that forward to Jordan.
So, go on, we're missing questions. I have to scroll back up. So we've had, will the gas bug? Yes, we addressed gas bug. So we think we fixed that. Check out the patch notes; they're live now. Does the inspiration from the game come from CS:GO? No, it doesn't. It comes from the party game, the games Werewolf and Mafia. There is the TTT game as a game.
So Triple Terrorist Town.
So it's something that we've been aware of throughout the development, but we really haven't looked at it that much. We have that much more structure of games like Mafia, Werewolf, where there's a night period. So rather than just be like throw in loads of FPS, there are more like structured mechanics to Deceit than something like a TTT mod. So we haven't looked at them too much, but we have been aware of that. As I said, the inspiration was what can we do with something like Mafia or Werewolf, the party games, in an FPS setting, and also how can we just make an interesting game, social game that works with sort of random people online. It's a very unique game. Like you have it in TTT, but it's again it's a very mod-centered game. It doesn't seem to be as effective. Like just throw you into these games with all these random. It has its very unique feeling, and a lot of that's been unique to Deceit. But in terms of inspiration, we just wanted
I think the inspiration comes from so many different things that it's impossible to really pin it on one.
Yeah.
Everyone in the studio has played different stuff. The first thing I did was draw comparisons to horror films that apparently half the studio hasn't seen. So, it's difficult to pin it on one thing, unfortunately. So, yeah.
Someone was talking about map-specific items. I think, as a general rule of thumb, we'll probably go with global items to start with, maybe 2-3 more items at least for every map. I do like the idea of map-specific items, but I don't know how far we would go with it. If we were to, it'd probably only be one individual item per map.
Yeah, if we added a little more flavour to the maps, that would be interesting.
So suggestions that I think someone was talking about in Discord yesterday were being able to bar certain doors in the asylum would be a cool idea, and there was talk of having like almost a drone that you could deploy in the forest map, which would maybe either scout an area ahead of you or just notify you of people passing through an area that you set it up in. It's something we need to look into more, but I'm not sure it would be done before more global items.
Yeah, I think some tripwires could be interesting in the forest.
Okay. We have someone asking about if you're the only infected, why do you not gain you should gain more elo. I think we've talked about that, giving you more
in case you missed it on the forums and basically everywhere we posted that, if you're the only infected, you should no longer as of today. Is that not in today?
It will hopefully be in next week.
Right, okay, next week.
That.
Right.
But if you happen to be in a 1v4 situation where the other infected didn't connect, we want to make it so you don't lose any marks and maybe lessen the elo loss. I'm not sure about elo, but at least marks, it would be none. There's also talks about whether or not we should even let those games go forward. The initial reason was that we didn't really have the player base that would make it a sustainable model to have people just going into queue, then someone not connecting, and then going back to queue, and maybe queue taking another 5 minutes.
There's a whole new way in which we can make sure that everyone does get into the game much more consistently. It still doesn't usually happen, but one guy not connecting, we can sort of make sure they connect. If they don't, we can put someone else in. We've not done that yet. That's something we'll look into. probably in the next few weeks, and that's it. We have so many things that our team need to address, but yeah, we'll definitely get to that. At the same time, though, we are ASAP just making it so that you don't get screwed over if that happens to you. Like,
so step one, we're reducing the penalty of what happens to you for being in that situation, and step two, we're going to try and rule out the situation, pretty much.
Someone says, how do I report racist player? We're adding a reporting system.
Yeah, we're adding a reporting system.
So that will be coming in the next couple of weeks.
Not that this is a solution, but you can also mute them by pressing Q in voice and in text. It's not the best solution, but it means at least you won't be victim to it.
Right, we have to speed through a few because we have so many. Will there be match items? We'd address that. Will there be any other objectives for terrorists other than blood and levers? We're looking at doing more stuff with levers, but I think we'll leave that until next stream to discuss, because we could talk about that for a while.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch
We've
of
not
interesting
started
ideas
on
on
that
that.
yet.
We haven't started them, but
more stuff we can do with levers. We've got traps, which will sort of affect both. He's asking terror-specific objective.
Yeah, I want to change, or I want to potentially look at in kind of future maps, or even retroactive in some of the old maps, changing the way maybe the escape mechanic works to be more of a iterative goal thing that they could maybe then work to sabotage. So not really sure how that's going to work yet. It's only vaguely discussed. It's like absolutely nowhere near worth discussing with the community just yet, but it is something we're looking into.
Yeah. So tier 2 perks are the most hard to make. Why is that? Also, they're not that good. I'm not sure why.
I assume he means for getting them. We definitely can reduce the challenges, and
we're adding loads more, obviously.
So as of today, I'm not sure if you read the patch notes yet, but there's a lot more XP that you can gain through doing different things, such as assisting with objectives, antidoting players, or just using items in general. So leveling up should be slightly easier, at least for the early levels, which will allow you to reach the tier 2 a bit faster. In terms of their challenges, I assume next week when I go through and look at the traits again, we'll probably adjust some of the other challenges to make it a bit easier for at least the tier 2.
Yeah, so someone else has asked about the 4 innocent, 1 infected again. We're going to make sure that you don't get penalised when that happens, but we're also going to make sure we've done a lot to make sure that can't happen anywhere near as much. But some of that's only going to come in sort of next week, the week after, because it is a big matchmaking related change, just to make sure it can check, okay, let's get another guy into the game, that sort of thing. But that will come, so we will address it. When will the new loot system be live? We are looking tentatively at 2 weeks, I think, but we can't 100% guarantee that. That's when we're aiming for. We're aiming to have it in by April the 1st, right? So that will also come along with the end of season stuff, so it's quite important that we get that in. Add bear traps. We're looking at traps, absolutely. That's one of the first kinds of items we're adding in.
Yeah.
How do I report racist player? We sort of addressed that by muting right now, but we'll have a reporting function. Are you aware of the double jump bug, allowing you to reach unintended areas?
No.
Personally, I'm not, but
I don't know if double jump bug, this is news to me.
We will look into that for sure.
Yeah, if you're flying around the map currently and would like to tell us how, that'd be awesome.
More cosmetics. Are more cosmetics coming? Yes. And the whole system for unlocking them is being completely redone. Loads more cosmetics. That is coming. I would look out for April the 1st for the sort of big update around that, but every week we'll be doing more stuff.
And there's cosmetics today, St. Patrick's Day ones.
And the ones today, which we can show again, I guess.
I mean, okay. Yeah, sure.
Let's just show them.
Let's just go back
We've
to
got
this.
There you go.
There's
limited edition.
Right? Limited edition.
Limited edition. You can only get
hot
this week.
Stuff.
Terror traits will probably also be looked at next week. Someone just mentioned they definitely need some more tuning and making slightly more usable, I would say.
They need a bit of love.
Yeah, definitely.
Someone asked about matchmaking. We did address that earlier in the stream. We have made it so that it's region specific. It is possible to have some bleed over. We're improving it as we go. It's already obviously very fast at matchmaking, but we're adding more level-based and region-based analysis to the system. And that will be coming updates next week, updates the week after, and we'll refine it a lot. So yeah, we're aware of trying to make sure that you always play with people who you can understand. It takes your language settings into account already, so hopefully it's not too bad.
And there's going to be a more advanced setting on that sometime in the future, probably 2 weeks, week maybe. I don't know the system. I don't want to say
I guess we'll
No
go over
idea.
2 weeks. So
No,
I'm not
soon.
100% sure.
There will
Very
be
soon.
another layer of complexity on that, and how region-based matchmaking works, which you will have more control over in the near future. But at the moment, we are going to look to continue to make sure the region split does expand a little bit more, so you get less of that.
When will you resolve the issue with random long freezes? We have addressed various issues. We are making sure that we're going to address all of the engine-related ones. We're doing a huge review of it next week. We've sort of analysed what everyone sent us. We'll get all of those fixed. Doesn't mean we'll find absolutely everything in one go, but we're pretty confident about what we're pushing out. We've done some this week. We're going to do a lot next week. If it's a random long freeze, I think I know what you're referring to. Happens to some people. As I say, we're not going to introduce any more. We're going to fix what we have, and then we'll get to a good place. To make sure that we've got everything really, really exactly where we want it to be, really stable, might take a few weeks, but it will improve with time. It's a brand new engine, so we've got the bugs now, but as they get fixed, they'll be fixed.
Oh, and read the sticky, basically, because a lot of these issues that people face, that we've either found solutions to where they've been external to the game, something missing in Windows, something like that, or issues that we come up with fixes that are between patches or something on your end that maybe you can fix. It will always be in the sticky as we find them. Gets updated nearly every day. Check it out.
Infected only chat doesn't work consistently, which can ruin the game. Is that known?
I think there's an issue with commas and it switching what chat you're using. So that needs to be looked at. I guess probably look at it next week. We also want to do infected only voice chat, which would help the game a lot, I believe.
Yeah. So cool. We're addressing that. Try not pressing comma in the meantime. Right. After killing someone in Terraform, add an option to disguise as them and change their clothing. Maybe we've talked about clothing change of things and also dummy infected. That stuff, awesome. I think we should get to that stuff. I don't know when in our pipeline, but I think that's a whole dynamic we can definitely look into.
So something we're definitely wanting to do is, at the moment you can see name tags regardless of distance, and it's more how small the name tag is based on if you can read it or not. We want to make it much more controlled, like alphaing it out based on distance, and also removing it maybe when you're downed and things like that, which would help a bit, and maybe it would push it towards, oh, they're wearing this, and then that's a separate issue that we want to look into. So there definitely, obviously there's a clown terror outfit, and if you're playing with friends and maybe you're the only one who has that, it's kind of detrimental to you for using the clown outfit. So we want to add we need to try and think of a solution that will help with not being targeted because you're wearing certain cosmetics. Maybe being able to change them mid-game, something like that.
Someone says more roles, characters, more of a deep talent perk tree, question mark. So more roles, that's more than, we're looking to add more items first. That's really the way we sort of add more roles in inverted commas. So more items is the first way we're going to go with that. Characters, potentially, but we'd like to fill out the perks first, the traits. And then he asked about traits. Yes, we're going to have way more depth to the traits. That's the first thing we're addressing.
Adding potentially something else in the future to do with progression. That's in the very, very fringe stages of a talk at the moment. Nothing to talk about with what it's going to be. At the moment, we're going to sharpen up the trait system, make those a bit more meaningful, and see where we go from there.
Cool. How are we with today? I think we're great today.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Oh, and for whoever asked about my colour of socks for the stream, they are black.
Okay.
I don't know. That was a request. Someone said don't talk about colour of socks, so there you go. They're black.
And Lykek R2000 says good job to us, so thanks very much. And yes, hopefully we could do a lot of updates in the coming weeks that people will like. Any plans on allowing larger party sizes? We were talking earlier about how we can sort of eventually move to new kinds of game modes or have
custom game modes.
Custom games, seasonal game modes, and we'd love to try out 9-player, which is something we've looked at from day one when we first experimented. We would all the stuff we talked about in the stream first, and then yes, we're definitely going to look into it, but no fixed plans yet. So we've talked about 9 and 12-player kinds of game types. It'll be very interesting to try. The 12-player could be a duo one as well, where you have a friend and you're all duo partners. There are ways to do that sort of stuff, and sounds cool. Also, we could make slightly longer round ones with more players. Again, there are all these considerations, but a lot that we want to nail with the current game mode first, and then we'll take a look at that. Any chance of making the game longer? Yeah, as I said, if we made it longer, we might add more players. That's the sort of way it goes. I think it's the thing is the game's balanced. The map is balanced around how many people are in it.
Yeah.
So as I say, we will look into that stuff. But for the next few weeks, we're focused on just adding a lot more to what we have. Are we going to be playing Deceit, or did I miss it? No, we're not playing today. We should incorporate some more play stuff into our streams, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, I want to do community stuff at the end of the streams. Take a look at some of the awesome stuff people have been doing in the week.
Yeah,
possibly
we can
next
check out
week.
Highlights, yeah.
I'm not sure just yet when that's going to roll out, but we are looking into showing a bit more gameplay in these streams, some videos of stuff we've done rather than just images, and just stuff to make them a little bit more entertaining. Maybe next week.
Awesome, yeah. We're going to add more and more to our stream setup every week. We have some great microphones on their way. Whole new live stream studio. All this sort of stuff's coming. We were just talking about another game. Warface did like a time lapse of their streams, and they became so much better as time went on.
Warframe did a time lapse this year. I think they did 4-year anniversary or something of streaming on Twitch for the Dev Diaries. It showed their setup kind of go from super basic with a webcam to absolutely awesome TV studio quality that they're at today. So we're going to be maybe doing something similar. I don't know, maybe we can sharpen it up fast enough that won't work for us, and we'll just have an awesome thing after.
We have
the
loads
first
of
two.
equipment on its way, so we'll make sure we get good quality streams for you guys, and we'll also we're doing bug fixes, we're getting lots of stuff out of the way, but we've got loads more like advertising, marketing stuff we want to do around both the game and our stream, so that we can get a load more people watching.
But incorporate the community involved as well.
Spread the word, but we're also pushing it on our channels as well. So you should find within a few weeks our streams become hopefully a bigger deal, and hopefully we can answer your questions just as effectively.
Yeah.
I think the secret room map environment is too dark. Okay. I guess we should give that feedback to the
secret room.
I think it depends on your monitor, of course. So that's something that we should maybe look at, like looking at various monitor setups and making sure that, maybe there's an option we can allow for the brightness setting there.
Yeah, we should probably add something to tune and gauge where your brightness is supposed to be at. Some people don't have the monitors set up correctly, fix your color balance, guys, I don't know. But we should probably help those people out and introduce something for that sometime relatively soon. I don't know.
Cool, and someone asked about speed hackers. Yes, our update that's just gone live should address speed hackers.
Yeah.
And we also have anti-cheat in there for more people trying to cheat. And someone asked earlier about the high scores and people, if they've cheated on the high scores. Yes, we'll look to deal with that. We'll have to take a look through their history.
want to reset their MMR, personally.
Yeah.
Maybe. It depends on what they've done,
basically.
It depends on what they've done. I know some of the streamers have been really kind of vocal about that, about people around their MMR where they think maybe they haven't gotten there legitimately, or they know they haven't gotten there legitimately. So it's certainly something we're looking to address, for sure.
Someone says, when will the buying skin option be released? We're looking to do that at the beginning of next month.
Yeah, I feel like it feels a bit weird to address issues that get more money out of users first, so we're not looking to do that right now. I'd rather we fix stuff first than ask for more money. It just feels better that way.
But it's also in-game,
So,
like,
yeah,
it's in-game.
Oh, you mean with the in-game,
Yeah.
the coin thing? Oh yeah, sure, the coin thing is probably
Yeah.
next. Yeah.
Cool. I think we've covered all the key questions. What we'll do is we'll go away. We'll still be on Discord. We're hosting a stream. But that's
In about an hour and 15 minutes, we'll be live with hosting Drunk Brad's stream.
Cool. So a community stream going on there, and you can check out our patch notes on Steam or on the Play Deceit website. And make sure you downloaded the game update today, because we have a game update today. And we will do next week, incorporating your questions, feedback, all the fixes we talked about, or many of the fixes we talked about today. And we look forward to seeing you again and seeing us next week for our even more professional.
Yeah, I look forward to not having to walk over there and turn the stream off, which is what I'm going to do in a minute, and just everything being more awesome. So hopefully that happens next week onwards.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Cheers.
And yes, the patch is going live